When I was 15, my family dumped me like garbage to go on a Christmas cruise without me. They said the cabin was too nice to waste on you. My mom tossed me a crumpled $20 and said sharply, "Don't sleep home," and then left with the others, laughing. I spent Christmas in silence, eating toast in an empty kitchen. They left me alone for 2 weeks for the holidays. No phone calls. No texts. I didn't question why, just cut them out of my life. Years later, they got an unexpected shock. This morning, my brother sent 11 messages. "What have you done?" "She won't stop crying, just pick up the phone." I've never really talked about this in full, but I guess I'm finally done keeping it all bottled up. Every year, when Christmas comes around and I see my friends posting their family photos, all smiles, matching sweaters, holiday cheer, it just reminds me that wasn't my life. Never was. My family's always been different. I was never the favorite. Honestly, I wasn't even in the running. It was like I was just there, an afterthought, a spare part. There were 4 of us kids, me, Alex, my older brother Daniel, my younger sister Leah, and my little brother Thomas. Mom and Dad are both still around. Mom's name is Mary, and she's the kind of person who always needs the last word, who craves the spotlight. If someone else is getting attention, she'll find a way to make it about herself. Dad, George, is the opposite. Quiet, avoids conflict. Always just there but never actually present. Growing up, Daniel was the golden boy. He could do no wrong. Leah was the only daughter, the princess. And Thomas was the baby, so he got babied. Me? I was just Alex. Not the smartest, not the cutest, not the most athletic. Just there. And after a while, you get used to being part of the background. But one Christmas changed everything. It wasn't like a big dramatic blow-up. It was this quiet, suffocating realization that I wasn't really part of them, not the way they were part of each other. I remember it so clearly because it started so casually. It was about 2 weeks before Christmas. I was up late, couldn't sleep, and I heard Mom's voice through the wall. She was on her laptop, whispering excitedly about some great deal she found on a cruise. I didn't think much of it. Mom loved to brag to her friends about her shopping finds. I figured it was just another one of those late-night shopping sprees. But the next morning at breakfast, she just drops it like it's nothing. "Oh, by the way, we're doing Christmas a bit differently this year. We're going on a cruise." Her eyes were on Daniel when she said it, waiting for his reaction. He just smiled a little, barely even looking up. Leah didn't even glance up from her phone. Thomas was bouncing in his seat, already excited. I was the only one who reacted. "Oh, that's cool. When are we leaving?" I asked. Mom looked at me like I'd just asked her to donate a kidney. "You're not coming, Alex," she said, her voice almost irritated. "There's only room for 4. You'll be fine on your own for a week." I was 15. Daniel was 17, Leah was 14, and Thomas was 10. Somehow, they all fit into this perfect little family vacation except me. I laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. "Wait, seriously? There's no way I can come." I tried to offer solutions. "I can sleep on the floor or the couch or whatever. I don't need much." But she just laughed, this short, sharp laugh. "What do you expect us to do? Book a whole extra room just for you?" And that was it. Dad kept eating, staring at his plate like this was all totally normal. Daniel didn't even look up. Leah was still on her phone. Thomas, bless his heart, was the only one who even seemed to notice I was hurt. "Can't Alex stay with Grandma?" he asked, looking around like it was the most obvious solution. But Grandma was in Florida for the winter, and Mom just brushed it off. "No, he's old enough to handle himself." Handle myself. Like I was some stray dog they were leaving in the yard. I didn't know what else to say. I just sat there, my throat tight, trying to act like it didn't bother me. But it did. It really, really did. The days leading up to their trip were torture. Mom was in full planning mode, making lists, packing suitcases, and bossing everyone around. She never once asked if I was okay being left behind. Dad didn't say a word. Daniel and Leah barely looked at me. Thomas tried to talk to me a couple of times, but he always got pulled away. I tried one last time the night before they left. Caught Dad alone in the kitchen, asked if maybe there was a way, any way, I could go with them. He sighed, barely looking at me. "You know your mom made the plans. I'm not getting in the middle of it. Not getting in the middle of it." Like he was some neutral party. Like I was just asking for a favor from strangers. The morning they left, it was still dark out. I was in the kitchen, staring at a piece of toast I didn't even want, just existing. Mom came in, suitcase in one hand, and dropped a crumpled $20 bill on the counter. "Don't burn the house down," she joked. Daniel walked by, headphones on, barely even glancing at me. Leah was fixing her makeup in her phone's front camera. Thomas gave me this quick, awkward hug, but Mom was already yelling for them to hurry up. And then they were gone. I stood by the window watching the car pull out, hearing Mom's laughter even through the glass. I spent that Christmas alone, scrolling through my phone, watching random videos just to fill the silence. I thought maybe they'd call, maybe a text, but nothing. Not that day. Not Christmas Eve. Not Christmas Day. I remember dinner, if you can call it that. I made more toast. Couldn't even think of what else to eat. I just sat there, staring at the empty kitchen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. And when they came back, it was like I hadn't even existed. Mom was bragging about the cruise, Daniel was talking about some friends he'd made, Leah was mad her phone got wet, and Thomas was upset about losing his sunglasses. Mom looked at me, her voice dripping with fake cheer. "Oh, you survived." That was the moment I realized I was just a ghost in my own family. Just there, but not really part of them. And that's where it all started going downhill. After that Christmas, something inside me changed. It wasn't like I suddenly hated them. Hate would have been something, at least. No, it was more like I just stopped expecting anything. And when you stop expecting anything, you stop getting hurt. Or at least that's what I told myself. The house felt different when they got back from the cruise. They were loud, tan, full of stories about their amazing adventure. Mom bragged about the food, the shows, the endless sun. Daniel barely looked at me, too busy texting someone on his phone. Leah was still whining about her phone getting wet, and Thomas was sulking over his lost sunglasses. No one even asked how I'd spent my Christmas. I didn't bring it up. I didn't tell them about eating toast alone, about staring at the empty house, hoping they'd call. I didn't tell them because, deep down, I knew they wouldn't care. Maybe that sounds dramatic, but when your own family leaves you behind without a second thought, it kind of rewires your brain. It makes you question everything. At first, I tried pretending it was fine. When they laughed, I forced a smile. When they shared stories about the cruise, I nodded along. But every word felt like sandpaper against my skin. Every photo they posted on social media, all those happy, sunlit smiles, I was the ghost in the background. The one who wasn't there. The one they didn't want. School was a relief. At least there, I could be around people who didn't know. I started staying later, finding excuses to hang out with friends, spending more time at the skate park just to avoid going home. Home wasn't home anymore. It was just a place I slept. A place I tried not to be noticed. But even at school, it was like a shadow followed me. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. Who wants to be the kid who complains about their family? No one wants to hear that. And I didn't want the pity, the awkward silences. So I kept it to myself. I let it fester. Mom didn't help. If anything, she seemed annoyed with me. Like I was this constant reminder of something she'd rather forget. Whenever I tried to join a conversation, she'd change the subject. Whenever I asked for something, even something small, she'd sigh like I was a burden. And it wasn't just her. Dad stayed his usual passive self, never stepping in, never saying anything. He just drifted from room to room, avoiding eye contact. Then there was Daniel. He tried acting like nothing had changed. Like we were still brothers, still supposed to hang out and play games. But if I ever mentioned the cruise, he'd shut down, say that wasn't my decision. Talk to Mom. And that was the end of it. Leah was the same as always, glued to her phone, living in her own little world. Occasionally, she'd ask for help with something, but it always felt like she was doing me a favor by even acknowledging me. And Thomas. Thomas was a kid. He didn't understand. He just followed the others, trying to keep the peace. It's weird how quickly you can become invisible in your own home. I got used to eating after everyone else, slipping into the kitchen when they were already in the living room. I started saving the little bits of money I got from birthdays or doing odd jobs, hiding it away. Not because I had some grand plan, but because I didn't trust them. I didn't trust that they wouldn't just decide one day that I didn't matter. Spring break was when I really started to understand just how bad it was. Mom was planning another trip, this time a beach getaway. Same routine. Excited chatter, making packing lists, talking about all the fun they'd have. Except I wasn't on that list. Again. Am I coming this time? I asked, trying to sound casual, trying not to sound like I was begging. Mom didn't even look up. Don't make this about you, Alex. That was it. That was the line that did it. I felt something snap. I didn't say anything, just turned and walked away. Dad didn't even bother to step in, just shuffled off to his office. I went in my room, lay on my bed, and stared at the ceiling. Don't make this about me. As if I was some outsider trying to crash their perfect little family. After that, I stopped asking. Stopped trying. I became a ghost by choice. I'd eat out, spend my weekends anywhere but home. If they were planning something, I'd leave the house early, make myself scarce. I stopped responding to their group messages, stopped laughing at their jokes. Mom noticed. I know she did because she'd make these little comments, planning to eat my food or just use my house. She'd snap. Or she'd tell her friends I was so dramatic or such a problem. But I didn't care. I was done playing along. I stopped helping too. When Leah's laptop broke, she asked if I could fix it. I shrugged. Google it. When Thomas wanted to play games, I told him I was busy. Daniel tried to rope me into some group thing with his friends, and I just walked out. Dad stayed quiet, always quiet. Sometimes he'd try to talk to me, these half-hearted attempts to check in. But it was always the same. You know your mom's under a lot of stress. Or just try to keep the peace. Like I was the problem. Like I was the one making it difficult. I started saving even harder. I didn't know for what exactly, but I knew I needed out. I needed an escape plan. I started hiding cash in a shoebox in the back of my closet. A stupid cliché, but it made me feel like I had some control. Like maybe one day I'd just leave. It was during one of those awkward dinners where everyone talked around me but never to me that Mom announced another trip. A weekend at a fancy cabin by the lake. Just a little getaway, she said, already smiling at Daniel, Leah, and Thomas. I didn't even ask this time. I just watched them plan, watched them pack, and I didn't say a word. The day they left, I didn't even bother getting out of bed. I heard them rush around, Mom barking orders, Dad mumbling something about traffic. The door slammed, the car started, and they were gone. I got up, walked into the empty kitchen, and opened the fridge. Nothing but leftovers. I grabbed a piece of cold pizza and sat at the table eating in silence. It felt normal now. A couple of hours later, I got a text from Daniel. A picture of the lake, everyone smiling. The caption, "Wish you were here." I didn't reply. That's when I really started to understand. I wasn't just ignored. I was excluded. I wasn't part of their plans, wasn't part of their lives. I was just there. But not for long. Leaving wasn't a choice I made one night. It wasn't some grand declaration or a heated argument. It was a slow, quiet decision. Like the way a candle flickers out when there's no more wax. It just happened. After that lake trip, after that picture Daniel sent, I knew there was no point pretending anymore. I wasn't part of them. I wasn't family. I was just this extra piece they didn't know what to do with. And so I started planning. Quietly, carefully. I'd already been saving money, stashing it away in that shoebox in my closet. But now it felt different. Like each crumpled bill I added was a step toward freedom. I started taking on any odd job I could find. Mowing lawns, shoveling driveways, running errands for the neighbors. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't need to. At home, I became a shadow. I slipped in and out, barely speaking. I learned to cook a few things. Just enough so I didn't have to rely on whatever leftovers Mom forgot in the fridge. I'd eat late, after they'd all gone to the living room. I started doing my laundry at night, folding it in silence. They noticed, of course. How could they not? But they never said anything directly. Mom would make these little digs. "Still sulking?" she'd ask, not even looking up from her phone. Dad stayed his usual passive self, acting like everything was fine as long as he didn't have to get involved. Daniel barely acknowledged me. Leah and Thomas drifted further into their own worlds. I think the first real test came a few months later. I was in my room, counting the money in the shoebox. Just over $200 by then, when Mom burst in. No knock. Just that sharp, familiar sound of her voice. "I need you to help Leah with her phone. It's not connecting to the Wi-Fi." I didn't look up. "I'm busy." "What?" Her voice sharpened. "Busy doing what?" "Just busy." There was this moment, this pause, where I thought she might actually push it. But then she just sighed, muttered something about me being impossible, and left. I heard her down the hall, snapping at Leah to figure it out herself. After that, I started pushing back more. Not in big, dramatic ways, just little acts of resistance. When Thomas asked for help with his homework, I told him I didn't know how. When Daniel wanted me to go with him to pick up something, I said I had plans. Even when Dad tried his usual, "You know your mom's under a lot of stress" line, I'd just walk away. It was like I was testing them, seeing how far I could go before they noticed, before they cared. But they never did. Then came the summer. Mom had a new plan, a big family road trip. The kind of thing you'd see in movies. Packed van, snacks, stops at weird roadside attractions. And I knew I wasn't part of it the second she brought it up. They were all in the kitchen. Mom pulling up routes on her tablet, Daniel scrolling through his phone, Leah asking if they'd stop at the beach, and Thomas bouncing around like always. I stood in the doorway watching. "Can I come this time?" I asked, not even trying to hide the bitterness. Mom looked up, her face barely masking the irritation. "Alex, don't start." "Don't start what?" I shot back. "Asking if I can actually be part of the family?" Dad looked up then, his expression unreadable. "Alex," he started, but I didn't let him finish. "No, it's fine," I said, already walking away. "Enjoy your trip." I went to my room, shut the door, and grabbed my phone. I texted a friend, told him I'd help him out with his part-time gig over the summer. Anything to get out, to keep busy. And that's exactly what I did. While they were off on their perfect little road trip, I was mowing lawns, cleaning garages, doing whatever I could to stack that shoebox higher. I spent most days out, avoiding the house, avoiding the quiet, empty rooms. When they came back, tanned and laughing, I barely even looked at them. I grabbed a plate of leftovers from the fridge, went to my room, and shut the door. No one bothered to ask how my summer was. No one cared. But then, a week later, it happened. The thing that finally snapped the last thread. I was at home, scrolling on my phone, when I got an email. Some generic credit company thanking me for my application. Only, I hadn't applied for anything. Confused, I clicked the email, looked closer. My name, my email. But the address? That was Daniel's. I went to his room, tried to stay calm. "Daniel, did you use my info for something?" He didn't even look guilty, just shrugged. "I needed it. You never use your credit anyway." "I never use it because it's mine," I snapped. "You can't just take my info." "Calm down," he muttered, scrolling on his phone. "It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal?" My voice was rising, but I didn't care. "You stole my identity." "It's not stealing. We're family." I walked out before I could say something worse. But the anger didn't fade. It just simmered, boiling under my skin. And for the first time, I knew. I wasn't just leaving. I was cutting them off. I started making changes. Called the bank, changed my passwords, set up a new account they didn't know about. I went through my phone, cleared out their contacts, blocked numbers I didn't need. Mom noticed, of course. "What's this about?" she demanded one night, waving a letter I'd had forwarded to my friend's place. "Nothing you need to worry about." "Don't give me that attitude," she snapped. "You live under my roof. I have a right to know." "Your roof," I echoed. "Right? Just like your family. I'm just the extra, remember?" Her face twisted. "Stop being so dramatic, Alex. We've always done everything for you. Like leaving me alone for Christmas? Like using my credit without asking? Your brother needed help. Why are you always so selfish?" That was the moment I realized something to her. I'd always be the problem. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried to fit in, to be good enough, I'd always be the inconvenience. So I stopped trying. I started counting down the days until I could leave for real. I didn't tell them. I didn't warn them. I just waited. And they didn't even see it coming. I didn't leave with a dramatic speech. No slammed doors, no shouted accusations. One morning I just walked out. A duffel bag with my clothes, my shoebox of cash, my phone. That was it. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't owe them that. And they didn't deserve it. I found a cheap room to rent with a friend's older brother. Not much, a mattress on the floor, a tiny closet, a shared bathroom. But it was mine. Mine in a way that nothing ever had been back at that house. I had my own key, my own space, my own rules. And for the first time, I could breathe. I thought they'd notice right away. Thought I'd get angry texts, maybe even a call from Dad pretending to care. But days passed. Nothing. Not a word. I went back to school, kept working my part-time jobs, stacking money. I'd see Daniel's posts on social media, photos of them laughing, going on more trips, Mom tagging them all with cheesy captions. It was like I'd never existed. And at first, it hurt. It hurt like hell. Seeing them smile, knowing I was forgotten, like a bad dream they'd finally woken up from. But then I realized something: they weren't happy. Not really. Not without someone to blame, someone to push around. And without me there, they started to crack. It started with the calls. At first, just a few from Mom. I ignored them. Then they came more often, voicemails where her voice went from casual to annoyed to desperate. Alex, you need to call me back. This is getting ridiculous. Then Dad tried. His was the same old script. Come on, Alex, you know how your mom is. Just, let's talk. But I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to hear more excuses, more gaslighting, more guilt. I wanted them to feel it. To feel what it was like to be alone. To be the one left behind. Then Daniel tried. He showed up at my place one night, banging on the door, shouting that I was being childish. I didn't answer. I watched through the peephole as he stood there, fuming, then stormed off. Leah sent a text, a weak little miss you. I didn't reply. And then the real fun began. Money. That was the breaking point. Turns out, without me around to be the backup, they started to struggle. Mom's side hustle fell apart. Dad's retirement took a hit. And the family's picture-perfect image started to crumble. Daniel texted me one night, saying I needed to help them out. That it was my responsibility. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud, sitting there in my tiny room, staring at his message. I replied, like it was your responsibility to leave me out of everything? He didn't like that. He tried to guilt me, said Mom was stressed, that she needed me. I told him they had 3 other kids. Figure it out. And then Mom called again. This time her voice was different. Not angry. Not demanding. Just tired. Alex, please? Can we talk? We need you. I almost caved. Almost. But then I remembered. I remembered that Christmas. I remembered sitting alone, eating toast, waiting for a call that never came. I remembered being an afterthought, the extra, the one who didn't fit. And I remembered that they'd never once apologized. Never once admitted they were wrong. So I didn't answer. I blocked their numbers. I changed my social media accounts. I cut them off completely. It didn't stop them. They started reaching out to my friends, to old neighbors, asking if I was okay, if I was just being dramatic. One day, Mom even showed up at my building, pounding on the door, yelling. My roommate looked at me wide-eyed. I told him to just ignore it. And then she left. No note. No apology. Just gone. I thought that was the end of it. I thought they'd finally get the message. But then I got an email, some legal document from a cheap online lawyer. They wanted to sell the family lake lot. The only thing of value left. But they needed my signature. The email was polite, formal, but I could feel the desperation. I ignored it. Then the texts started again. Mom begging. Dad asking me to be reasonable. Daniel threatening me, calling me selfish. Leah crying, saying they were going to lose everything. But I didn't care. They'd made it clear I wasn't family. They'd made it clear I was just an inconvenience. Now they needed me and I wasn't going to be their savior. I went further. I dug up every old shared account, every group chat, every old subscription they'd left in my name. I canceled it all. Changed passwords. Cut them out completely. One night, Daniel tried to get in again, tried to use my name for another loan. But I'd locked my credit. I got a call from the bank. I told them to flag it. He tried to call me furious. I let it go to voicemail. They were losing control. And I was free. Mom tried to play nice one last time. Sent this long, emotional email saying she missed me, that I was still her son. I read it. Didn't reply. Dad sent a message, a single sentence. I wish it didn't have to be like this. I laughed. Because for them, it never had to be like this. They chose this. They chose to leave me out. To make me the outsider. To use me when they needed something and ignore me when they didn't. And now they were finally getting a taste of it. The silence. The cold shoulder. The feeling of being unwanted. I moved again. Got a better job. Upgraded to a nicer apartment. Built a life they weren't part of. Sometimes I'd hear from a friend of a friend, some rumor about them struggling, about Daniel and Leah fighting, about Mom's health going downhill. But I didn't care. I'd spent enough time being their punching bag, their backup plan. I didn't owe them anything. Sometimes at night I'd think back to that Christmas. Sitting at that empty kitchen table, listening to the hum of the fridge. Feeling so alone. So forgotten. And I'd smile. Because now they knew exactly how that felt. I was done. For good.